Alright, it's time for another episode of Gather Up Gotchard. We're still early on in the show, and it's very much, it's laying its foundation, it's getting its status quo. We're living in the moment, right? This is the moment. But, this episode we do get a little bit of focus on our main female lead, because we opened the episode where the last episode ended with Spanner beating the submarine dude. He takes the submarine card and goes like, here you go. I'm going to ignore our main Kamen Rider and just give this shit to you. Literally, he says, this does not mean I acknowledge you as a Kamen Rider. He's very salty, very petty about it, and I find that hilarious. But hey, they're all safe and able to move on with the episode itself. Because Monster Hunter best friend guy comes up to Hotaro and says like, hey, people are talking about Kamen Rider. And it's the moment you always have with the secret identity superhero thing of like, oh my god, people think I'm cool. Hey, yeah. Also, I just want to point out, this dude's on fucking 7chan. Is this a reference to like fucking just one of the Chan sites? 4chan, 6chan, all those kind of things? This man is probably shitposts memes all the fucking time. But Hotaro's daydreaming about being a cool superhero in the alchemy classroom thing, and our two red cloaks, or the buddies, you know, come up and say like, hey, could we borrow like one of your dudes and let you use two of these guys? And he's like, I don't know, it feels weird to just trade off friends. But they are like, yeah, but you can meet these guys, and the little Mantis dude is probably okay with it. And the Mantis goes like, yeah, I'm cool. It's like, all right. So he gets two new cards to deal with. As fucking Spanner shows up, and goes like, hey, what's up, bitches? I'm here to capture monsters because I was told to by the authority that apparently exists. Okay. So there is a big government authority to the alchemy thing. I wonder if that's going to play any role of all this kind of stuff. But our main dude and our female lead catch wind of Akemi. They go and chase it. And the Goth sisters show up and go like, haha, we have caught you in a trap. And the one in the short skirt basically goes like, alright, cool, this is my trap. Uses an ant thing, creates an illusionary ant hill, and we just kind of play a game of cat and mouse, back and forth, a couple different fights between the people. Like, it's a fight at first, they run away, and they go like, oh shit, we're in an anthill, all this kind of stuff, right? Skirt woman shows up and goes like, hey, you're a little piece of shit, lady, cause your dad's a traitor, and just kind of poking the bear, and the dude's going like, okay, there's more to this story. The second we get away, I'm going to talk and ask her about this shit. They do, and she's just kind of like very crestfallen. It's just like, fuck, my dad. And dude's like, okay, hey. So what's up? Like, what's the whole thing with your dad? And she gets to explain it and all this kind of stuff, you know? And the dude goes like full like parallel story empathy mode. Of going like, yeah, no, my dad left my mom and me, but you know, I try to do things to make my mom smile, and she's just like, yo, I remember my dad smiling. Fuck, okay, I understand now. I like, she's not moved past it, but she's able to like accept it for the moment, and they're able to beat down some of the baddies with a new PNG power, which I think, if we're not going to get suits for all of them, I think this is fair enough. It's a cool enough power to use. And then with the empathy that he channeled with the female lead, I can't remember her name right now. Fuck me. Hold on. Wait a second. I have a cheat code. It's called my notes from last week. Because some of y'all said the name. That's why I remember Hotaro. Come on. Give me my notes. Give me my notes. Hotaro passed the test. Bottom of the cards correlated to anything. Right. Yeah. Good job, me. Mr. Minato. Oh, nope, we didn't talk about the lady. Okay, I'll have to look up that name later. But basically, because of that empathetic bridge that he built, he's able to, like, thematically, this is what it is. It's not in the text that this is what happened in the show. But use the submarine card that Spanner gave her with the mushroom card that he got last episode. Make a brand new form and just does some Macross missile spam. That's fun. And but there's a moment where the skirt woman like holds her main female leads hostage, and it's like, all right, get rid of the belt. And our guy's a good guy. He's like, all right, cool. No, I don't want to hurt. I'll give you the belt. He drops the belt, and the evil woman's like, all right, cool, badass. I got the belt. Goes to grab it. But because our main character, Hotaro, is befriending the Kimmy fights back. Energy drink fights back. He's able to grab the belt back, transform into the skateboard samurai, and beat down the baddie. Get out of the illusion, all that kind of stuff, and they're able to escape. It's like, all's well that ends well. And Spanner is just acting like a big dickhead, right? Just like egging it on and just going like, I don't acknowledge you. These are meant to be tools. Just the same old. Because he does save them. He kind of put them in that situation in the first place. But he does save them. And he's just like, hey, give me my card back, you fuckhead. And hey, main female lead comes to Hotaro's family's restaurant because he invited her. And he's able to cook her a meal, and she goes like, it's meant to look weird, and she eats it, and she goes like, it's a little weird, and he goes like, God damn it, it's a little weird. Really fun episode, but they are definitely building on some cool stuff. I really enjoyed this episode. It's fun. It is very much kind of just trying to maintain a status quo of an episode. It's not really building anything right now, other than just like character interactions and the core ideas of the theme, which is very much of like empathy and understanding each other, and like not seeing, like, what I'm trying to say is like main character sees the Kemis not as tools but as people, and because of that he is able to accomplish more. And I think that's the thematic thing is kind of going through, is like empathy will get you through a lot more than just raw utilitarianism, you know what I mean? And it's also just like elements of like what's to be expected of you, but what can be done better, because ultimately everybody kind of sees the Kemis as just like, oh, they're a thing we got to take care of, they're a tool, yada yada yada. The alchemy school like questions his tactics every single time, and like they're humoring him, but it's just more of like, are you sure about that, buddy? Valvarad berates him repeatedly on it. And ultimately, it's shown that like his way of doing things is getting the job done, is getting things accomplished. And I gotta wonder, like, was her dad seen as a traitor because he also kind of fell into like the Hotaro idea of like, no, we should treat the Kemis like beings and not just like tools, right? But also on like that tool idea, the bad guys are a full extreme of it. They do not give a shit. They're just abusing the Kemis for their own ends, for their own wants and desires. But it is shown that just by talking to them, they're like happy to help us, like, or play into the plan. Like, he just asks help from Energel and like the ninja guy, and it's just like, hey, happy to work with you. And like, they're immediately on the ball. Like, they're going like, okay, cool. We got a plan. We're working with this guy. Fucking monster energy punch. And that's fun. That's cool. Just by talking through things, you're able to accomplish so much more than just forcing them. Right? Especially because, like, the ant trooper, the ant Kemi, just immediately ran to the guy the minute it was free of the evil woman's control. It's just like, yeah, it didn't want to be there. Even the mushroom, like last episode, the mushroom hated that it got wrapped up in the malice. They don't want to be a part of this. And it's just interesting, like, everyone's been treating them at arm's length because they don't want the trouble of that responsibility, or they don't acknowledge that responsibility and don't even see them as beings. But Hotaro is seeing them as beings and is able to, like, communicate with them. And it's just like, they're like, oh shit, this dude actually cares about us? This guy's our boy. This guy's our boy. We're doing whatever he wants. Fuck all y'all. But yeah, no. I am really enjoying Gotchard. It has been genuinely delightful. And if you would like to see some more delightful things, you can follow me on social media platforms. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitch. Links are all in the description. You can go click them, find them, do all that kind of stuff. And hey, if you like videos like this, you can get an exclusive video of me talking about and reviewing Ultraman Blazar every week for as little as $1 on Patreon. Link to that is in the description. Yeah, Blazar is good. Go see my thoughts on it. But it is, of course, what happens at the end of every one of these videos. Time for comments. First up from Slime Beast. Can't wait to see more of the Edgelord. Also, potentially, that lady getting a rider suit. On the note of them being aberrations, what, like, plastic isn't? Plastic doesn't show up in nature. Oh, this show will never hear the end of it if the female lead doesn't get a rider suit. I will be there with them too, but, like, this show is building up a really fascinating, really interesting female lead as a character. Like, full character arcs, very interesting things. Like, for most part, she's the driving force of a lot of this, and our main character's kind of a B-plot. I wouldn't say, it's not to that extent, not that extreme, I mean. But, like, she's the one that knows all the things and going through figuring things out, and he's kind of like the muscle. Which isn't a bad setup for this early status quo. And on the note of them being like aberrations, like, yeah, no, we live with aberrations all the time. Glass is technically an aberration. It's just sand that's melted down. Like, that's the point of, like, creating things, is making something new. And it's kind of like, they're kind of looking like Frankenstein, of going like, oh no, I've made something. It's horrible and monstrous. Kind of a shitty thing to do, but, you know, can't blame, well, you can't blame them, but you know what I mean. Like, that is what it is what it is, and they're gonna learn their lesson through the power of karate bugmen. Next up from Fish Pop, Hopper 1 is still adorable. That's an emoticon face. Don't know if I can pronounce that. Would that be the noise? Why he does a lot of the dialogue seem recorded in post. Après-ski is pretty cool. The pumping of the Gotch tornado was rather suggestive, much like Mach Super. Jacking dead heat. Valvorad looks dope. They need to make a plush of Hopper 1 post-haste. They need to make a plush of, like, most of the Chemis. Like, it is a guaranteed moneymaker. Just make a plushie of them. I definitely kind of noticed some of the dialogue was a little off. I thought it was just kind of the main guy, Hotaro, the guy who plays Hotaro, just trying to get to the point where he enunciates more, because I wouldn't say he's been marble mouth, but he is kind of like, he's a little mumbly. And I just kind of was like, maybe he just needs to enunciate more, but I can definitely see how it could kind of sound like that. What else? Yeah, Valvoride looks dope. Really kind of like cool in a teen OC edgy kind of way. And hey, sometimes you just gotta make suggestive motions. You know how the world works. Next up from Pico. Purple is peak for real. For real? Revice was the last season to do Monsters of the Week thing, by the way. But anywho, I didn't like this episode that much. It feels like this easily could have been 2 episodes. It felt really fast-paced, and I was just thinking to myself, you have 49 episodes, you don't have to fit this mini arc for Gotchard into a single episode. Anyway, Valvorad seems okay. Nothing but Nothing much, but Hinge and Device is sick though, and here's a random idea I had, probably won't happen, but here it is anyway. What if someone who also cares about the Kimmies like Gotchard does, but instead of trying to make a world where Kimmies and humans live in peace, what if he just wants the Kimmies to be safe by killing all the humans? Again, random idea I had, that probably won't happen, but overall, I rate the episode 6 out of 10. Well, I mean, I can totally see it happening, because it's all, so far the show is all about how you interact with things, right? How you communicate. Totoro communicates with the Kimmies and is able to get job done, while Valvarad sees them only as tools, and yeah, sure, he gets the job done, but it's as effective? He's only being able to transform his arms. Is that the most effective use of the Kimmies? Gotta ask that question. So I can totally see them doing something like that, but I could also see something like N from Pokemon being a thing too. There's a lot of room to explore and everything. And yeah, hey, you know what? Not every episode's going to be a home run for episode. I even think that last episode was a home run. It was like, it was a base landed. You know, it was a walk. It was a base. And yeah, the pacing did suffer a little bit, but it definitely feels more of like, that the monster was the B plot, because the A plot carried on into, like, this episode. You know what I mean? Like, it's a difference in structure. Like, it seems like the monster of the week is going to be episodic, but they're going to put a lot more focus on the overall story, because it is kind of flowing with Valvarad being a little edgelord coming around. You know what I mean? Next up, from Esconde. I also hope we get more bike scenes as the season progresses. On the topic of the wishing their alchemy was more like alchemy instead of magic, at least I think Mr. Minato's alchemy is closer to that, transmuting the barrel into a shield and shifting the metal beam to hold the guy in place. Love that Hotaro had to earn Apri Bushido's approval. He's got his heart in the right place, but this episode felt like a bit of reality check between the steam hopper fever being blocked and him getting poisoned, and helped him realize what he needs to work on. Kirigane Spanner. I really hope that's just a name he came up with to try and sound cool, because that's such an edgy name. I love how petty he's being, standing on top of the building to look down on Hotaro, watching him lose from the sidelines and ambushing him with practice sword. And of course, the irony of him talking about virtue. Those without virtue will be vanished by me, Valvarad. But so far, he's shown to be full of himself and a jerk. Makes for a great contrast with our optimistic lead. Also love another showing of the difference in their philosophies on how Gotchard being able to change forms completely with Kimmy cards, while Valvarad seems to only change with part of his suit, like the arm with them. The differences with Valvarad and Gotchard are really interesting visually, but there's also like thematic weight, like you mentioned, because if you read some of like the deeper lore on the Kamen Rider belt, basically it says like, oh yeah, no, his body disintegrates and turns into like alchemy fluid and fuses with the Kimmies. It's like he is becoming one with those creatures. Meanwhile, Valvrad seems to just be wearing it as a suit. Like, it's not affecting him, it's using as a tool, which, I mean, reflects their philosophies. And I wonder if we'll get other writers to reflect that idea of relationship with the Kimmies. Like we mentioned a few minutes ago, of like, oh, what if there was a person who said fuck humanity, Kimmies all the way? Would their form even look like a human? Would we get a return of the giant 3D monsters like from Geats? That could be interesting. There's a lot of play that could be played with here, and I'm just calling it now. Valvarad is full on Chuny. We have a Chuny here. He's a Chunibyo. He is so far in thinking like, oh man, I'm a badass. Let me pull out a badass line. It's just, he is just full of himself. He thinks he is all that's right for the world, and nothing he can do is wrong, and that's hilarious to me. And finally, from, I believe, the says Monster Hunter, but I believe the name is Ray. I think it is fitting to comment on the third episode. It's a rule somewhere. Story so far is great. A story of an underdog, young, naive child selected as a chosen one, wanting to learn something he is not meant to, goes to school, solve problems his own way, befriends everyone. Yep, you guessed it right. It's Shonen Kamen Rider Gotchard. The plots for episode 1 to 3 fits right in. That's why, just by the opening, it feels familiar. It sounded enough like an anime intro. OP is great and upbeat. But wait, hold your jinxes just yet. Like Geats, I will watch a new arc may occur, storytelling may change. For the design of the enemies, they seem budgeted, as seen from the drone shot they haven't added on episode 1. But hey, even I don't know how to turn a skateboard into a monster. As for Gotchard, his finisher is awesome. It's like a blink kick, and the coal engine seems the key motif of his design. Looks like he is somewhat of a legend in the king is O's. I don't mind the Pokemon approach to the cards. Reminds me of Forza. Waiting now for episode 4. I am really loving like the mid-2000s shonen throwback vibes. This may just be me, but it feels like Pop Punk's on like a real big revival between this show and Blink-182 coming back. It's just like, oh my god, it's fucking Warped Tour up in here. I don't mind the budgeted suits, because just from 4 episodes, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4. We've had like 4. We've had 5 monsters. You know, if we keep this kind of pace up, I am totally fine with them doing like a lot more budgeted suits. Because then we can have a lot more cool designs. We can do a lot more interesting things with them. Or maybe we're going to have less writers this season. And the way they're going to kind of like circumvent that is they're going to do a lot more monsters, you know? Kind of zhuzh it up, you know? I think that'd be interesting. And there has been so many parallels between O's, to me at least. I would half expect to see the O's cast show up in the Gotchard movie. You know? Like how the Ryuki cast kind of showed up for the Geats movie. It's just like, hey, by the way, we're also alchemy based and inspired. Woohoo! Yeah. So, that was this episode of Gotchard. That was this video of Gather Up Gotchard. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you guys next week.